it started with a sound. At first, Emily thought it was just the house settling. Creaks, groans, the usual noises old homes make when the wind shifts or the temperature drops. But over time, the sound became more deliberate. Soft murmurs, almost like whispers, slithering through the walls in the dead of night. She told herself it was nothing. She had just moved into the house, a charming old Victorian on the edge of town, and was still adjusting to its quirks. The realtor had warned her that the house had a history, but he was vague, as if the place had a reputation no one wanted to discuss in detail. One night, when the whispers came again, Emily decided to investigate. She grabbed a flashlight and made her way into the darkened basement, the air heavy with dust and the faint smell of mildew. The murmurs seemed to come from behind the far wall, from a narrow crawl space she had never noticed before. With trembling hands, she pulled away a stack of old crates, revealing a small, rusted door hidden in the shadows. It had no handle, just a faint, chipped label that read, "Do not open." Her heart pounded, but curiosity pushed her forward. She pried the door open with a crowbar, and a cold breeze hit her face, followed by a surge of rank air that almost made her gag. The crawl space beyond was cramped and suffocating, but she crawled in, her flashlight cutting through the dark. As she moved deeper, the whispers grew louder, but there was something more now, like a rhythmic tapping, something scratching against the walls, just out of reach. Suddenly, the light flickered, and in the brief moments of darkness, she felt a hand, cold and clammy, brush her shoulder. She screamed and scrambled backward, but the walls seemed to close in on her. She turned, desperate to escape, but the tunnel had changed. The crawl space was no longer the same. It twisted and turned in impossible angles, like some kind of living thing. The whispers, now an unintelligible chorus, filled her ears, drowning out all other sound. And then she saw it. The walls were covered in pale, twisted faces, pressed against the plaster, their eyes wide and glassy, their mouths open in silent screams. They weren't just images. They were alive. The scratching intensified, now coming from every direction. Emily could feel the weight of unseen hands closing in on her, pulling at her clothes, tugging at her hair. She fought to move, to escape, but the walls began to ripple, as if the house itself was swallowing her whole. In a final, desperate effort, she lunged forward, shoving her way through the crawling, undulating mass of faces. But the deeper she went, the more the whispers consumed her thoughts, until she no longer remembered how she had gotten there. The last thing she heard before the darkness took her was a single whisper, soft and clear, as though it was right next to her ear. "Welcome home." The next morning, the neighbors noticed that the lights in Emily's house were still on. But when they went to check, the front door was unlocked, swinging open on rusty hinges. Inside, everything was as it had been the day she moved in, except for one thing: the walls. They were covered in faint, ghostly shapes. Faces, eyes wide and staring. And from somewhere deep within, the whispers began again.